Let me ask you something. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where things started off great with a guy? He was chasing you, texting all the time, taking you out, making you feel amazing. And then suddenly something shifted. He started pulling back. He wasn't texting as much. Maybe he became distant. You began to question everything. Was it something I said, something I did? Did I misread the entire thing? And in that moment of uncertainty, what do most people do? So they panic. They try harder. They overcompensate. They try to be more available, more agreeable, more accommodating, all in the hope of winning him back, of proving that they're worth choosing. But here's what most women don't realize. Men test women in subtle and sometimes not so subtle ways before they truly open their hearts. Not all tests are conscious. Sometimes it's their instincts, their patterns, their fears. But the effect is the same. A man will test who you are, not by asking you directly, but by watching how you behave in moments of uncertainty, pressure, or distance. Why? Because how someone behaves when things are easy means very little. It's how someone behaves when things are uncertain that shows their real nature. And that's what men are really watching for, even if they don't know it. One of the first ways a man will test a woman, again, not necessarily on purpose, is by pulling back just a little after that initial high, that euphoric rush when everything feels perfect. That's when he subconsciously wonders, is this too good to be true? Or am I losing myself? Or simply, am I ready for this? So what does he do? He takes a step back. Maybe not completely, but enough. And that's where the first real test happens. How you handle that space he creates says everything. Do you freak out? Do you chase? Do you suddenly drop your standards just to reel him back in? Or do you stay calm? Do you stay in your power? Do you remain your vibrant, whole self without making his attention the validation of your worth? Because here's the truth. When a man starts to retreat, it doesn't always mean he's losing interest. Often he's just testing the waters of emotional safety. He's watching to see, can I be a little distant and not lose her? Can I take a breath and not be punished for it? Can I be human in this space? See, love, real love, requires vulnerability, and men are taught their whole lives to avoid vulnerability. So before they let someone in, before they truly fall, they want to know, is this woman safe? And safety doesn't mean you let him walk all over you. It means you're emotionally intelligent enough to hold space when things get weird, not forever, not without limits, but long enough to see what's real. You're not quick to react, but instead you observe. You're not afraid to walk away, but you don't panic at the first sign of discomfort. You give the situation a little time because you know your value doesn't disappear just because someone else is unsure. Another way men test women is by noticing how you handle his imperfections. Trust me, every man knows he's flawed. He knows there are parts of himself he's still figuring out. Maybe he's not great at communication. Maybe he's still working on his career. Maybe he has some emotional baggage he hasn't fully unpacked yet. Whatever it is, he knows. He may not say it out loud, but he's hyper aware of the things that make him feel not enough. And he's watching how you react when those things show up. When he gets a little insecure, do you shame him? When he makes a mistake, do you emasculate him? When he shows weakness, do you lose respect for him? Because for a man to fall in love, he needs to feel like he can be fully seen, not just for the parts of himself that are charming and successful and sexy, but for the messy parts too. He wants to know, can I be vulnerable with her without being judged? Now, don't get this twisted. This doesn't mean you become a therapist or make excuses for poor behavior. This is about emotional maturity. It's about your ability to see beyond the moment, to understand the bigger picture. Can you acknowledge his flaws without making them about you? Can you support without fixing? Can you love without losing yourself? Because that's where respect is built. That's where the foundation of love starts. When a man feels like he can be imperfect around you and you're still standing there, not enabling, not tolerating nonsense, but holding space with grace, he starts to see you as someone different, someone rare. And if you don't think that's a test, think again. Because he's not just watching how you treat him when he's on top of his game. He's watching how you treat him when he's not. Then there's another test, possibly the biggest one. He's going to see what happens when your needs conflict with his. This is where most women lose themselves. At first, when everything is new and exciting, it's easy to go with the flow. You're not asking for much, you're just enjoying the ride. But eventually something happens that you don't like. Maybe he cancels plans, maybe he forgets something important to you, maybe he says something offhanded that stings. That's a wake-up call. Now, here's the trickiest part of all of this. These tests are not obvious. They don't come with a buzzer or a scorecard. They're happening in subtle moments, those tiny interactions, those little silences, those one-word replies, those offhand comments. They're happening in how you respond to his uncertainty, how you behave when he's inconsistent, how you speak about other people, how you treat the waiter, how you carry yourself when you're not the center of attention, how you react when things don't go your way. These are the moments where he's watching, where his unconscious mind is scanning for signals. Is she solid? Is she safe? Is she self-respecting? Is she emotionally intelligent? And you might think, that's not fair. Why do I have to be the one who passes these invisible tests? Because it's not just him testing you. You're testing him too. Every time he shows up or doesn't, you're making mental notes. Every time he listens, supports, or shuts down, you're taking it in. So this isn't about playing a game. It's about recognizing that love is not just about attraction. It's about alignment. It's about whether two people can see into each other's soul and say, I see you, I respect you, I'm safe with you, and I choose you. And before a man can say that, he's going to need to see how you show up under pressure, because that's what tells him who you really are. So what do you do when you find yourself being tested? You stay in your power. You stay rooted in your self-worth. You remember that no one else determines your value, and you stop trying to be chosen and start living in a way where the right person will recognize you without you having to audition for the part. You don't get clarity from someone else. You create clarity within yourself. If he's hot and cold, you don't dance to his rhythm. You set your own rhythm, and if he can't keep up, he falls away. If he disappears, you don't beg, you rise. If he disrespects your time or energy, you don't argue, you adjust your access. Because here's the thing, the biggest test of all is how you love yourself. Men notice that more than anything. Not in a preachy self-help book way, but in how you walk into a room, how you carry your standards, how you speak your truth, how you enforce your boundaries, how you respond to disrespect, not with rage, but with calm certainty. And the moment he sees that you're not just looking for love, but that you are love, you live love, you embody love, that's the moment he starts to fall. Because love isn't something you chase, it's something you are. And that right there is what every man is really testing for, whether or not he even knows it. He's watching to see if you've made yourself the kind of person you would fall in love with. If you've built a life that's already rich, already full, already meaningful. Because then you're not asking him to complete you. You're inviting him to join you. And that kind of invitation is irresistible. Because when you've done the work to become whole, you stop waiting for someone to choose you and you start choosing yourself. And that's the moment a man stops testing and starts trusting. That's the moment he stops hesitating and starts pursuing. And that's when love, real, lasting, deep love, begins. There's something that happens in the early stages of a connection between a man and a woman that very few people talk about openly. It's subtle, it's often invisible, but it's powerful. It's the way men, consciously or unconsciously, test women before they allow themselves to fall deeply in love. This isn't about manipulation. It's not about playing games. In fact, most men don't even realize they're doing it. It's not a calculated strategy. It's instinctual. It's the emotional equivalent of touching the water before diving in. They're checking for depth, for safety, for warmth. See, for men, vulnerability doesn't come easily. Society doesn't condition them to be comfortable with emotional openness. In fact, for many, it's the opposite. They're taught to armor up, to be tough, self-reliant, unaffected. So when a man begins to feel real feelings that could threaten that sense of control, his reflex is often to pull back. Not to hurt you, not to play with your head, but because love in its truest form terrifies him. And before he lets himself go there, he wants to know what he's stepping into. This is where the first kind of test begins, the test of uncertainty. Everything was going great. You were vibing. He was showing up, texting consistently, making plans, investing effort. And then something changes, the frequency drops. He becomes less responsive, less enthusiastic. Maybe he doesn't plan the next date. Maybe he starts taking hours, even days, to reply to a message that used to get a response in minutes. And in that moment, most women go into self-doubt. Did I do something wrong? Did I come on too strong? Is he losing interest? And that spiral can quickly lead to behavior that tries to fix things. Texting first, initiating more, trying to be extra available, overly nice, super understanding. But here's the danger. When you try to solve uncertainty by overcompensating, you signal to him that your emotional stability depends on his behavior. And that's the opposite of what creates attraction. Because he's not just watching what you do, he's watching who you are when things aren't certain. That's the test. He's subconsciously asking, can she hold her own when I pull back? Does she have a life, a purpose, a mindset that isn't completely thrown off just because I've taken a step away? Or does she panic? Does she chase? Does she change her energy just to keep me engaged? It's not about being unavailable. It's not about pretending you don't care. It's about staying centered even when someone else's behavior becomes unpredictable. It's about being the calm in the storm. That doesn't mean you tolerate ghosting or disrespect, but it does mean you allow space. You don't grab, you don't beg, you don't force a connection back into place. Because what happens when you don't react from fear? He notices, he sees that your confidence doesn't hinge on his attention. And that's rare. It's magnetic. Because a man wants to know, if I need space, will she collapse? Or will she hold her ground with grace and security? He's testing whether your confidence is internal or whether it's dependent on external validation. And when you show that your self-worth is anchored inside you, not in whether he texts back at 8 or 10 or never, that's when you rise in his eyes. That's when he sees you as someone he can't easily replace. Then comes the next layer of testing, the test of imperfection. Every man knows deep down that he is flawed. Maybe he's not as emotionally expressive as he wants to be. Maybe he struggles with communication. Maybe he's still finding his way in his purpose or dealing with self-esteem issues. Whatever it is, he knows it's there. And even though he might not say it out loud, part of him wonders, will she still respect me when she sees this part of me? That's not something he says in words. That's something he watches for. Maybe he forgets a special day. Maybe he says something careless. Maybe he opens up about a fear or insecurity. In those moments, he's not just watching how you respond to the issue. He's watching how you respond to him. Do you ridicule? Do you shame? Do you withdraw respect because he showed weakness? Or do you hold space? Not by accepting poor behavior, but by understanding that no one is perfect, that a man's flaws don't make him unworthy, but how you respond to his flaws reveals your emotional maturity. If you meet his humanity with your own grace, something shifts. He begins to feel safe, not coddled, not enabled, seen. And for a man, being seen without judgment is one of the rarest experiences. That's what creates the bond that makes him want to stay. But there's a difference between holding space and abandoning your standards. If his imperfections turn into patterns of disrespect, inconsistency, or dishonesty, then the tests flip. Now you're the one being tested. And the test is, will you leave the table when respect is no longer being served? Because here's the paradox. How you respond to his imperfections and how you honor your own boundaries in the process are both part of what he's watching. He wants to know, can I be real with her? But also, will she hold me to a higher standard when I fall short? Not from anger or ego, but from strength and love. That balance of compassion and boundaries is what creates true attraction, because it tells him this woman won't punish me for being human, but she also won't stick around if I stop growing. That combination is rare. That combination is unforgettable. Now, there's another kind of test, and this one is perhaps the most telling of all, the test of emotional regulation. Life doesn't always go the way we plan. People cancel, plans change, misunderstandings happen, emotions rise. And in those moments, the way you express your feelings becomes the mirror in which he